نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So as we continue discussing this topic, which is Ilm al-Mustalah or Mustalah al-Hadith, that we had started in a previous lesson. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we'll also continue by having a discussion regarding certain matters pertaining to Ilm al-Hadith by way of an introduction. So we still refer to the Madkhal or Muqaddimah, so there's still an introduction or a preview regarding Ilm al-Hadith. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we'll try to cover maybe around 5 areas regarding Ilm al-Hadith, or 6. So of those areas regarding Ilm al-Hadith, I will try to cover regarding concerning Hamiyat, regarding concerning Ilm al-Hadith. I will just take a few statements of the ulama, what have been mentioned regarding this matter. Also, second, we'll discuss concerning Mabadi al-Ashar, so regarding every knowledge that that a person should understand regarding anything that any field that you're going to study, that it should be introduced to 10 things. We try to cover some of those things. Then also, third, we'll try to discuss concerning that Tariq, Tasnif fi al-Ilm al-Mustalah. We also discuss concerning the history regarding those books that have been written on the topic of Ilm al-Mustalah al-Hadith. And then fourth, we discuss concerning matters pertaining to matters relating to Al-Qab al-Muaddithin, some of the names that are used by the people in the field of Hadith. And also we discuss concerning matters that relates to which book we intend to study, and also we'll try to cover regarding some of the renowned names of the ulama of Hadith. So we are familiar with some of the ulama. I've laid some of the foundation, and I've done the work regarding Ilm al-Hadith, and I've contributed a great regarding the science of Ilm al-Hadith. So as for the first that we mentioned, that we ought to cover regarding concerning points, first regarding Hamiyatul Ilm al-Hadith. So regarding concerning this matter, that as we had mentioned in our previous lesson, that Imam Muslim rahimahullah, that when he made his Sahih, that also there's an introduction that is a part of that collection of Hadith. And in that introduction, that you have mentioned matters regarding where they have titled this particular discussion, Bab Wujub al-Riwaya and Thiqat, where they mention that in this title, that it is the Bab, the chapter, that it is compulsory, al-Riwaya and Thiqat, for a person to narrate upon those narrators who are said to be Thiqat, reliable, trustworthy, wa tark al-Kadhibin, and also for a person to leave away narrating on those who are said to be liars. Then they mention wa tahdhir min al-kadhib ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also warning, strict warning against lying upon the Prophet alayhi salam. So as for this matter, he mentioned different things, but after the thing that we mentioned, that he mentioned the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salam, where the hadith it mentioned, where the Prophet alayhi salam mentioned, where he mentioned man hadatha anni bihadithin, that the one who narrates upon me hadith, yara or yura, and he sees it, annahu kadhib, and he sees it, he recognizes it to be a lie upon the Prophet alayhi salam, fahuwa ahad al-kadhibain, wa ahad kadhibain, then he's one of the liars. Or they mention ahad kadhibain or kadhibin, he's one of the liars or one of the series of liars. So the general hadith is mentioned regarding concerning man hadatha anni hadithin, that the one who narrates upon the Prophet alayhi salam hadith, yura, and the person see that the person have come to know, detect that is something which is a lie upon the Prophet ﷺ, and for the person to transmit this, then he becomes one of the liars. So it shows regarding the Muslims, I mentioned man hadatha anni, then this is to indicate to the Muslim that he should that he is to verify and check matters that he narrates upon the Prophet ﷺ. So whatever information is being passed on and it's being ascribed to the Prophet ﷺ, then a person has to verify that information, that even though he has received it from whatever sources, before the person then pass this on, transmit this to others, then he has to go through the process of verifying the authenticity of that hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ, he warns regarding people as narrating upon him without per se trying to distinguish those narrations that are said to be credible and those that are not credible. Then also from this they mention also the Prophet ﷺ have stated, where they mention the next chapter, where they mention showing that the seriousness regarding concerning this matter, where they mention that the Prophet and the hadith is mentioned, and Ali anhu, where he mentioned that different narration mentioned that states Then, sorry, when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, hadith mentioned, man kadhib alayya muta'ammidan, that the one who lies upon me. So this hadith the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, man kadhib alayya, the one who lies upon me, muta'ammidan, intentionally, فَلْيَتَبَوَّأْ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ, then he should take his place in the hellfire. So it shows regarding also the seriousness regarding just transmitting of information about the Prophet ﷺ without verifying. So it mentioned, man kadhib alayhi, that the one who lies upon me, muta'ammidan, intentionally, فَلْيَتَبَوَّأْ, then a person should take مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ, take his seat in the hellfire. So it shows it's something which is serious. So the ulama mentioned regarding that line upon the Prophet ﷺ is not like a line upon anyone else. So this is there's a process regarding to verify information that one transmit upon the Prophet ﷺ or pass on to others that goes back to the Prophet ﷺ. So by this, that the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned, inna kadhib alayya laysa ka kadhib ala ahad, that it is not line upon me, the Prophet ﷺ is not like line upon others. So overall it shows, and these hadith that we mentioned, as we said, were riwayat, that is taken from Imam Muslim rahimahullah in his muqaddimah. But the general idea and concept is that line upon the Prophet ﷺ is something that is serious. And also for a person not to fall into this, the person have to have a system in place, a mechanism in place regarding how to verify that information that we transmitted, that we have received from others, how they are reliable. And how reliable are they, and what's the process? So the ulama of hadith, that they have now put a process in place, and that is a part of ilm al-mustalah, al-mustalah hadith, and what attached to the science. So as we mentioned, the science have different components of it. This is one of the components regarding ilm as-sunnah, one of the components of ilm as-sunnah. So the next matter to be discussed, as we had said, the next matter regarding al-mabadi al-ashar. So what are these 10 things that normally are mentioned before one study a particular science or field? So the science of hadith, wa ilm al-hadith, also that the ulama of hadith have discussed concerning, these are 10 introductory points that are covered regarding ilm al-hadith. So as for these points regarding concerning of this matter, then of those points regarding concerning of on this matter, then the first of this is regarding concerning what have been mentioned regarding, or what ulama mentioned regarding that they mentioned that ta'rif wal had. So what is said to be the ta'rif wal ilm al hadith? So the science that we are covering, that we wish to discuss and to understand. What's this science? What is it called? What's this science? What is this science and what is involved? So the ulama of hadith, they mentioned regarding concerning as for a ta'rif or had. So they mentioned a ta'rif, meaning concerning what's the definition of the science, what's the had, what's the, again, definition of this science. So the ulama of manatiq, that manatiq, they mentioned regarding of al-had, they mentioned that a definition that should be jama ma'na, that whatever definition a person is given, it should be jama, that it consists of all the components that relates to what is being discussed, wa ma'na, and also it exclude anything that is not involved. So as for the ulama of hadith, that what they have several definitions regarding ilm al-hadith or ilm al-mustalah al-hadith. So ilm al-mustalah al-hadith, that it have been explained or defined, the science as the ulama have mentioned regarding, and amongst them Ibn Hajar have given a definition, and also Ibn Jama have given a definition, and these are like the standard like definition that are now used by many or accepted or generally accepted as what is said to be ilm al-hadith. So as these definition, there are two, that of Ibn Hajar and the second of Ibn Jama. Ibn Jama rahimahullah, he mentioned regarding concerning that ilm al-hadith, he mentioned ilmun bil qawanin yu'rif biha ahwal al-sanad wal matan. Ilmun, so Ibn Jama definition of ilm al-mustalah al-hadith or ilm usul al-hadith, he mentioned ilmun is the science bil qawanin, the science of qawanin meaning qawaid, qawanin meaning qawaid. So these are the rules and regulation principles, yu'rif biha, that it is used to know ahwal, the affairs of the sanad, the chain, wal matan, and the text. So this is ilm al-hadith. This is the science of mustalah. So what mustalah involve? علم بقوانين يعرف بها أحوال السند والمتن. So again, it is a science that has in place principles and guidelines that is used to understand the affairs of the narrators and the text. That's Ibn Jamal rahimahullah ta'ala regarding his definition. And also a second definition that is used, that is that of Ibn Hajar rahimahullah. We mentioned that ilm al-hadith or al-qawa'id, ma'rifatu al-qawa'id is knowing the principles التي يتوسل, that is used, those principles that are used to achieve بها, that is used to achieve إلى معرفة, that is used to achieve معرفة حال الراوي والمروي. So it is used, these are the principles that are in place that a person used to understand the affairs of the rawi, which is the narrator, والمروي, and the narrations. So I mentioned that the definition of Ibn Hajar and that of Ibn Jamal, they're generally the same thing, but difference in wordings. So the general definition of ilm al-hadith والمصطلح الحديث علم بالقوانين يعرف بها أحوال سند والمتن. So general concern to know are the principles that are in place for a person to know the affairs of the narrators and their narrations, or the chain and the matan. So from this we understand concerning that the maqsood, that concerning the objective behind the ilm al-hadith, that it revolves around as-sanad wal-matan. So ilm al-hadith, it revolves around study of the narrators and what is involved with the narrators, and also the matan, which is the text of the hadith. So that's concerning what is involved in ilm al-hadith. So by this, also the next matter regarding ilm al-hadith that is mentioned regarding these usul, they mention after ta'rif that they'll mention regarding mawdu'. What's the mawdu' of ilm al-hadith? So ilm al-mustalah, what's the mawdu'? So every science of a mawdu', it has a topic. They mention that the mawdu' is regarding al-rawi wal al-marwi. Al-rawi, so ilm al-hadith, it revolves around al-rawi, the narrators, and also al-rawat, narrators, and there at times majority are male, but also there's rawat who are female. And second matter of ilm al-hadith, it revolves around al-marwi, which is the narrations, things that people narrate upon the Prophet Islam or others. So that's concerning what is ilm al-hadith. So again, by way of the person able to distinguish those that are valid narrations and invalid narrations. So that's the mawdu' of ilm al-hadith. So regarding concerning as-sanad wal-matan, ilm al-hadith, it revolves around the chain, the narrators, and also the matan, which is the text. The next matter I mentioned, fa'idu. What's the fa'idah of ilm al-hadith? Wa mustalah. That with the benefit of this, where the person able can distinguish regarding tamyiz, or the person able to make that distinction and tamyiz between knowing those that are said to be hadith, that are said to be acceptable, and those that are said to be weak. So that are said to be acceptable, reliable, and those that are unreliable. Also by way of the person able to make a distinction regarding knowing those hadith, the benefit of ilm al-hadith wa mustalah, the person have the tools or some idea as to what is said to be, what is the hadith is sahih, what is the hadith al-hasan, and what the hadith is said to be daif. And also understand some of the language of the ulama of hadith, and also to understand the language, the terminology of the ulama of hadith. So that's the benefit, the fa'idah of ilm al-hadith, the person that have an idea as to how the ulama of hadith have come to conclusion regarding hadith, that hadith is said to be sahih, acceptable, said to be authentic, or hasan, good, or hadith which is daif, or hadith which is said to be weak. So I'm able to make that distinction, and also for a person to know regarding ahwal al-rawi wal-marwi, and also to know the affairs of the narrators, that which is acceptable and that which is unacceptable. As for the ghaya of ilm al-hadith, the next matter regarding the ghaya of ilm al-hadith, what's the objective, what we're trying to achieve of this and its purpose. So the objective, the purpose of ilm al-hadith is siyanat al-hadith al-nabawiyya wa athar al-salaf. So and in general al-Islam. So the objective of ilm al-hadith is the preservation of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where we can distinguish those that are reliable, that goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, and also those that are not. And also, just to add another benefit regarding ilm al-hadith, in going stepping back just one step, of the benefit of ilm al-hadith, that a person also in being able to distinguish those hadith that are said to be authentic and those that are not, that a person then can act upon those that are said to be authentic, and also he leaves away those hadith that are said to be daif. So of the benefit of ilm al-hadith, then a person can make a distinction regarding what he can act upon that is said to be authentic, and those that are not authentic, and the person then he'll leave away and not act upon those things. So the ghaya, so going back again to the ghaya of ilm al-hadith, then of it, the person siyana al-hadith al-nabawiyya from kadhib wal hadith al-mawdu', so as to making maybe can distinguish those hadith that are said to be acceptable and those that are said to be mawdu', and by this the person able can preserve preserve and keep intact what Islam actually represents. So the true representation of Islam is also upheld and protected and preserved by the person having ilm al-hadith, where the person able can know what goes back to the Prophet al-Islam in a valid way, in an authentic way, and those that are not. And also it is also with ilm al-hadith of his objective, then siyanat al-sharia, in general regarding preserving of Islamic law and teachings in general. So regarding matter that relates to aqidah, the person has to rely upon only hadith that are authentic. Matter regarding halal and haram, the person only use as reference or use as a dalil hadith that are authentic. Matters regarding tafsir of the Quran, the person go back to reliable narration. Matter that relates to akhlaq, the person also go back to narration that are authentic. So all the other science of Islam, that it goes back to ilm al-hadith, tafsir, where the Prophet al-Islam have explained matters regarding the Quran. Also the Sahaba, the Tabi'in, and those narrations are called yani at-tafsir bil-riwaya, tafsir bil-riwaya. So some mention tafsir bil-ma'athur, but others mention a more accurate wording, tafsir bil-riwaya, which narrations going back to the Prophet al-Islam regarding tafsir of the Quran, or tafsir of Quran by way of the Sahaba, or tafsir of Quran by the Salaf with isnad going back to them, so of the Tabi'in and the likes. Then also ilm al-hadith also play a role in matters regarding al-fiqh. So in the area of fiqh, ibadat, mu'amalat, halal wal haram, thing which is halal, thing which is haram, our general affairs, things regarding worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those things regarding saying something is halal, something is wajib, something is makruh, something is mustahab, all these ahkam of Islam goes back to the person having an evidence. So for a person to pass that judgment on something, a ruling on something, then he needs to have some form of evidence, and the evidence is the Quran and also the Sunnah, and the Sunnah also even more detailed in matters regarding al-halal and haram. So the person regarding of the benefit of ilm al-hadith and also the objective of ilm al-hadith, that the person who wants to pass judgment, they have to use authentic hadith. And also matters regarding aqidah and all the other science of Islam, it goes back to connected strongly to ilm al-hadith. Al-Wadah, as I mentioned, I will discuss concerning that. We'll discuss concerning those who have contributed regarding putting the rules and writing regarding ilm al-mustalah. So we'll discuss that after regarding the matter pertaining to those are the works relating to ilm al-mustalah. So as for the masail that I discussed concerning ilm al-hadith, then you find concerning the person known concerning what are the conditions regarding knowing what is the hadith said to be sahih, what is the definition of hadith sahih, and also what are the conditions of hadith sahih, where are some of the sources of hadith sahih, what is said to be hadith al-hasan, what is said to be hadith al-da'if, what is said to be hadith it is mursal. So these terminologies, then a person start to understand these are the things that are covered in ilm al-hadith, ilm al-mustalah. What is hadith sahih, what is said to be mursal, mu'allaq. So these terminologies, what are they? So these things will be discussed and covered as we discuss the individual topics regarding things that are covered in ilm al-hadith. So the extent you find that Ibn Salah rahimahullah in his book that is referred to Marifati Anwa ilm al-hadith, Ibn Salah rahimahullah, that at the beginning of the book, he lists all the things that he will cover. He lists all the different areas and topics that he will cover regarding ilm al-hadith. So the person have an idea as to what are those topics involving ilm al-hadith. Then also, as for the science of ilm al-hadith concerned, is hukum. So as for the hukum of ilm al-hadith, the ulama have mentioned regarding ilm al-hadith that it is of those science that is said to be the science by itself, that studying of this science is said to be fard kifaya. Studying of this science, it is classed as fard kifaya, where it requires for every generation a set of Muslim that are somewhat of studied this science and also acquainted with this science. So it is fard kifaya for one to study of this science. So that's the hukum regarding study of ilm al-hadith, that it is fard kifaya. So as for the next matter regarding ilm al-hadith that we'll cover is matters relating to also the names that are related to ilm al-hadith. What are different names that is referred to as? So ilm al-hadith, al-mustalah, is referred to as, from the ulama of hadith, ilm al-hadith. So one of the names is ilm al-hadith. So hadith going back to the Prophet of Islam, and by extension that of the Sahaba. So we have ilm al-hadith, and of the ulama kind of somewhat, and that's a name that is ilm al-hadith, the more famous, one of the more famous name of this science. So ilm al-mustalah, the more famous name is ilm al-hadith. Also is referred to as ulum al-hadith. So second, ulum al-hadith, so the plural of ilm, ulum al-hadith, so the sciences of hadith. More popular time of Al-Hakim and Ibn Salah. They name the book Marifatu Ulum al-Hadith as the name of the book of Abu Abdullah Al-Hakim al-Naysaburi. Also the book at times refer Ibn Salah rahimahullah, his book referred to Ulum al-Hadith, as sometimes referred to with of this name Muqaddimat Ibn Salah, or Ulum al-Hadith, as sometimes referred to as also is referred to as third Usul al-Hadith. Also at times the science referred to as Usul al-Hadith. So Usul al-Hadith also is referred to as this name that is used, that you find the likes of Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, that he referred that in his book called Al-Kifaya, that is titled Al-Kifaya fi Marifati Usul Ilm al-Riwaya. So it is also referred to as Usul al-Hadith, or at times referred to as Usul Ilm al-Riwaya, as we'll discuss. So another of the names, that is Usul al-Hadith, also Usul Ilm al-Riwaya, also this name is given, that's the fourth ilm, also referred to as Ilm Riwayat al-Hadith, Ilm or Riwayat al-Hadith, or Ilm Dirayat al-Hadith. So Ilm al-Riwaya wa Diraya, that they mention al-Riwaya regarding concerning Ilm al-Mustalah being referred to as Ilm al-Riwaya, by way of concerning that mention regarding the study of al-Riwaya, regarding that will include regarding naqla, that's concerning that that the Prophet is concerning that the transmission of the Prophet Islam aqwal, and also being precise regarding its wording. So this is concerning ilm, and also it is narrated, transmitted. So looking into those matters is called concerning ilm al-riwaya. And as for ilm al-diraya, related to hadith, ilm al-hadith, is regarding concerning that again looking regarding concerning matter relating to the ilm al-hadith, ilm al-mustalah. So al-diraya regarding كيف التحمل, أنواع, the different type of أنواع regarding concerning اتصال والانقطاع, the ahkam relating to it being مقبول ومردود. So these are those things that are related to ilm al-riwaya, or ilm al-diraya, which also relates to ilm al-hadith. So ilm al-riwaya, the narration of hadith, regarding al-sanad, wa ilm al-diraya, that relates to al-matan wa sanad, relates to both isnad, the chain, and the matan. So those are the names, and also of the more recent ulama, that the name became known as, they refer to general concerning al-mustalah or mustalah al-hadith. So al-mustalah became now one of those laqab that are names that are used for ilm al-hadith, and also at times referred as ilm al-mustalah al-hadith. So these are more contemporary, latter time, that are referred to as such. At latter time is referred to as such. So al-mustalah al-hadith, also mustalah al-hadith, or al-mustalah. So these are terms that are more used of more contemporaries. So that's concerning the names of this particular science regarding ilm al-hadith. Then the next matter to be discussed is matter pertaining to, as we said, the next matter would be the third matter regarding tariq, tasnif fi ilm al-hadith. Tasnif or nashat, tasnif fi ulum al-hadith. And also mention some of the more renowned works in this particular field. So we're discussing the next matter to be discussed is matter that relates to the works, the books that have been written on this particular topic, in specific regarding ilm al-mustalah or ilm ulum al-hadith. So of the more renowned of the ulama mentioned, and I've gone through different stages. So you have different stages. The first stage they mentioned regarding concerning that different stages. So the early stage that it went through, some mentions that were mentioned 4 or 3 stages of ilm al-hadith, that some may place ilm al-hadith regarding different stages as one. The first stage that I mentioned regarding concerning that, it was already included in different science, or it was included with other books. So not separate, but already included in other books. So that's early stage. You find that of those who included matters pertaining to ulum al-hadith in their works, in their books, Imam Muslim rahimahullah. So as we had mentioned before of the ulama, of for example Kutub al-Sitta, that Imam Muslim rahimahullah, that when he wrote his Sahih, his Jami' al-Sahih, that he also included a muqaddimah, and that discusses matter pertaining ilm al-mustalah or ilm al-hadith. Second, so that was of that stage, early stage. Of those also Imam at-Tirmidhi rahimahullah. So at-Tirmidhi rahimahullah in his al-Jami' or his Sunan, when he wrote this al-Jami' al-Sunan, at the end of it, he mentioned something regarding ilm al-mustalah, to give some guidance regarding some of the terminologies and rules set in his book. But more specific to his book, but he mentioned certain matters relating to ilm al-mustalah. Also you find ad-Darimi in his al-Jami', that also when he wrote his book, also he discussed certain matters regarding ilm al-mustalah. Also you find Abu Dawood as-Sijistani, when he wrote his book as-Sunan, and then later on he was asked regarding what is Sunan, his work that he wrote, then he explained some aspect of it in a risala that he wrote to Ahli Mecca. It's a small book that had been published that was sent to Ahli Mecca to explain where they went to the risala Abu Dawood as-Sijistani ila Ahli Mecca. So a book that he wrote to the people of Mecca that gives some general insight regarding this book as-Sunnah, which includes certain matters regarding ilm al-hadith. So those are the early works regarding concerning those who have wrote regarding concerning ilm al-hadith in the early stage, where it was included in other works. And of them, Imam Shafi rahimahullah. So Imam Shafi rahimahullah in his book al-Risala, that he have a discussion regarding, chapter regarding as-Sunnah. So discuss concerning marasil, so discuss certain aspect regarding ilm al-hadith. So that's the early stage. So of the early ones who wrote in this field, Imam Muslim, Imam Shafi, at-Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood, Imam al-Shafi, and others who wrote other works on this matter in the early stage. Then you have others who came later and they did the kind of, and then at a certain stage, then as they mentioned that, you have another next stage of writing in the field of ilm al-hadith, mustalah al-hadith, that are considered marhala al-jam, where some of the ulama will start to now collect matter regarding ilm al-hadith in specific. So regarding al-jam, marhala al-jam, where they now start to collect things specific to this particular field. So of those works that they were mentioned regarding concern that went through of different its stage, as mentioned by Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, where he can somewhat give us some insight into this matter. So of those works that become the more prominent or the more renowned work in the early stage regarding writings in particular focus in particular on ilm al-hadith or ilm al-mustalah, of those early works, that second stage regarding tasnif mustaqil fi ulum al-hadith. We said that, and also collecting matter regarding ilm al-hadith. Then of the early works that have been mentioned is that of the work of Abu Muhammad al-Hasan ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Khalad al-Farisi Ramahurmuzi. So that's concerning of an early work concerning the work that said Ramahurmuzi. So that's a famous name that become a household name concerning the science of hadith, that Ramahurmuzi was the first to have written a book specifically on mustalah or ilm al-hadith, ilm usul al-hadith. And Ramahurmuzi rahimahullah, he died 360. He died 360 al-Hijri. After that book, it is titled Al-Muhaddith Al-Fasil Bayna Al-Rawi wa Wa'i. Al-Muhaddith Al-Fasil Bayna Al-Rawi wa Al-Wa'i. And that book, alhamdulillah, it is printed. So that book has been printed. You have several, the more recent of the print. You have 2 recent print. So it was printed earlier, and then those print was somewhat, the book become very difficult to get that particular print. Then in the past years, that the book have been reprinted with different check-ins, and of them, and these are the ones that are now the ones that are available. These are the ones that are available. But overall, that it is Muhaddith al-Fasil. It's a book that is in print and available. As for Ramahurmuzi rahimahullah, even though he wrote this book, so it's not a book that it goes into as for what is contained in the book. It doesn't go into detail regarding what is traditionally known as what matters relating to Muslim in certain matters regarding what's hadith sahih, what's hadith daif, what's hadith al-mursal, hadith al-mu'dal. It doesn't go into these things. So they mentioned also Ramahurmuzi rahimahullah. Also, he was more so a person known for a adib wa lugawi. He was more so a person that was specialist, was more renowned for being a person who was specialized in the language, not per se a matter relating to hadith. But he wrote this book and became of the, started the process regarding people writing in the field of hadith in particular. Then I have others who came after. So that was the starting point. And I mentioned, وَلَكِنَّهُ لَمْ يَسْتَوْعِبْ, that he didn't per se, in that book, as the early book, didn't per se contain everything related to ilm al-hadith, but was a starting point. So it was a starting point. Then we had others who came after, and amongst those who were critical regarding writings regarding ilm al-hadith is, as they mentioned, Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hakim al-Naysaburi. Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hakim al-Naysaburi rahimahullah, and he died 405 al-Hijri, 405 al-Hijri. So the year 405 al-Hijri, and he's the author of al-Mustadrak. So I mentioned al-Hakim in his book al-Mustadrak. So you have the book al-Mustadrak regarding ilm al-hadith, regarding narrations, riwayat, and also is this book which is called Ma'rifatul Ulum al-Hadith, regarding concerning that the guidelines and the principle regarding study of hadith. So that's you have, so you have 2 things, which is the theory and also the practice. The practical pattern, which is a book of collection of hadith and commenting on some of those hadith. So Hakim al-Naysaburi rahimahullah ta'ala, that also wrote on this field, and his book Ma'rifatu Ulum al-Hadith also served as an important work on this field, that they mention some critique that regarding concerning that again in the early stage, that they mentioned that his book Ghayr Mu'adhib, the tartib a bit not as we that we would expect. So not to the extent, but the book considered to be an important book on that field. But as for the tartib, as to how the book is structured, then it is not per se, it is that they mentioned to be looked into. But overall, the book is considered to be an important book in the field of hadith. Then also you have others who have contributed greatly in this field. Another that we will mention of those who contributed greatly in this field, that they mentioned was Al-Hafiz Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi. Al-Hafiz Khatib Al-Baghdadi. So Khatib Al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, that he died 463. He died the year 463 al-Hijri. As for Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, that he wrote a book that is referred to as Al-Kifaya. So his book Al-Kifaya, then that book, it becomes of the work in this particular field of Ilm al-Hadith. So the book of Khatib al-Baghdadi, Al-Kifaya, so is Al-Kifaya في علم الرواية. Al-Kifaya في علم الرواية by Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah. So that serves again a very important book in Ilm al-Hadith. And then Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah also have written in different independent topics or topic-led books in Ilm al-Hadith. So you have many works. So Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah have a book Al-Kifaya that gives us a general idea regarding Ilm al-Muslim and different things that are involved. And also you have topic-led books in particular field of Hadith. Books. So Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah that you have written extensively in the field of Ilm al-Hadith. Also, you have another book that also became another renowned book regarding concerning Adab al-Rawi. So you have also a book regarding that explained regarding the Adab. That's concerning Adab. But as for Ilm al-Mustalah, that the book that is more renowned is matter related to the book of Kifaya. I would say this book also is in print. This book is in print. And you have many various works on this book of Al-Kifaya, but the book is in print. Another of those, and that becomes of those pinnacle books of that time regarding Ilm al-Hadith. So especially many who came after, that they benefit from Khatib al-Baghdadi and also from Al-Hakim al-Naysaburi. Then after this, then we have the work of Qadi al-Iyad. So Qadi Iyad al-Maliki rahimahullah, that he died 544. He died the year 544 al-Hijri, where he wrote the book Al-Ilma' ila Usul al-Riwaya wa Taqid al-Sama'. Al-Ilma', and this book is mainly related concerning matter that relates to that it really concerning that matter relating to the way to transmission of hadith. So I said that matter concerning transmission of hadith is more focused on this area regarding transmission of hadith. So those are some of the early works in al-Hadith. Then we reach the next stage. That's the first stage. So I consider that's the second stage regarding books, or the first stage of books written specifically regarding Ilm al-Mustalah. That's the first stage. So we have the likes of, as we mentioned before, of those who contributed to this first stage. We have Rama Hormuzi. We have Al-Hakim al-Naysaburi. Also we have Khatib al-Baghdadi. And also Qadi Iyad. So those are the main books during that time. We have others who have written during that time in some of their works, including concerning things of that relates to Ilm al-Mustalah in the Muqaddimah. We have the likes of Al-Bayhaqi, who died 458. That in some of his works that he would have an introduction and discuss concerning things related to Ilm al-Hadith. So Al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah, that he died 458. In some of his works that he wrote, he will put an introduction that, for example, in his book Ad-Dadahil al-Nabuwa, have an introduction regarding matters relating to, or we might say, Ilm al-Mustalah, and others of his works. Also, second of that time period, we could put also the works of Ibn Abdul Barr, that written a book specifically, but he would discuss concerning matters relating to Ilm al-Mustalah in his book At-Tamheed and the likes. So those are others who contributed in the early stage, that first stage regarding, you have those who wrote books specifically Ilm al-Mustalah, and those who wrote books that include matter relating to Ilm al-Mustalah. Of those one mentioned, Al-Bayhaqi and also Ibn Abdul Barr, alayhim rahmatullahi ta'ala. Then also the next stage of Ilm al-Hadith, where also they mentioned that of Tartib wa Talkhis wa Tasnif al-Daqiq, where now it becomes more, they start to be more precise and more in-depth so more being precise, and also their system of and their organizing they become more particular of that book of writing, and also of some book they start to make talkhis, they start then to condense or summarize some works of hadith. So that was the next stage regarding ilm al-hadith. So of that stage, that of those who led regarding in that second stage of books specifically to ilm al-hadith, but books that revolve around, that they concentrate more regarding at-tartib, or the book is structured and laid out. Also those who they're more precise of what they discuss and giving more precise definition. Also that broad the circle regarding what is discussed and include regarding ilmul mustalah, ilmul hadith. And also at that stage also we find works that they start to summarize some of the works of hadith. Of the more works that got a lot of attention and become of those works that considered to be of the foundational books of ilm al-hadith. So of those books that become renowned books, the well-known books in hadith, in mustalah, that you find the periodical regard concerning that of the ulama who came, Hafiz Abu Amr Ibn Salah. So Ibn Salah rahimahullah, that he came and also he wrote a book, and that became the book that became like another cornerstone book of mustalah from his time and those that came after him. So the work of Ibn Salah rahimahullah became like a cornerstone work in ilm al-mustalah, especially from his time and those that came after. So Ibn Salah rahimahullah, that he died 643 al-Hijri, died 643 al-Hijri, where he was a teacher and he was teaching the topic of in one institute of learning, that Madrasa Ashrafiyya, that he was a teacher there in Damascus in Syria, that he was a teacher, then he was teaching the subject of ilm al-hadith. So he put this work together, so it was something of imla, and it became like the curriculum that they used to study. So Ibn Salah rahimahullah, that he put together regarding what is referred to as this book, that became known as Muqaddimah Ibn Salah. So it became famously known as Muqaddimah Ibn Salah, as the work that he did regarding discussing concerning ilm mustalah, as a part of the teaching material that he used. So the book eventually became a book and became known as Ma'rifatu Anwa Ilm al-Hadith. So the book, they said the proper name of the book. They have a discussion between the ulama, or those who discuss the book, but I mentioned the more proper name of the book is Ma'rifatu Anwa Ilm al-Hadith. So that's the work of Ibn Salah, generally known, referred to as Muqaddimah Ibn Salah, the introduction of Ibn Salah. Muqaddimah Ibn Salah in the field of Ilm al-Hadith. So this book, I said, now become a cornerstone. Everything that came after somewhat is relates back to this book. Ibn Salah rahimahullah, when he wrote this book, he got a lot of information from those who preceded him. So what he wrote, or what was dictated, and what he taught, a lot of information, it came from the word of Khatib al-Baghdadi. So a lot of it came from the work of Khatib al-Baghdadi and those who came before, that he used a lot of their works to form what is known as Muqaddimah Ibn Salah, the book that is referred to as Muqaddimah Ibn Salah. So then after that book of Ibn Salah, then the next stage where you find those who have done work around the books of Ibn Salah, many work around the book of Ibn Salah, Muqaddimah Ibn Salah, those they mentioned, man iktasar, those who have summarized it. So of those who have summarized, those who have explained it, those who have made it into like manzuma, poetry, those who have made hashia, nukat. So you have different works revolving around the book of Ibn Salah, showing the importance of this book. So everything that came after, in some way, most of those works are attached, go back to the work of Ibn Salah. So of those who summarize the work of Ibn Salah, we have the early of them, amongst them, An-Nawawi. So Nawawi rahimahullah, that he condensed the work of Ibn Salah, and he had two works. So the first, he had a book, his first summary of the work of Ibn Salah. It is called Irshad al-Talib العقائق إلى معرفة سنن خير خلائق. So that's the word that he mentioned, Irshad al-Talib. So the work is referred to as Irshad al-Talib, and that is done by An-Nawawi rahimahullah. Then after he did this work, then he came back later on and he made a summary of that work that he did, which is a summary of Irshad al-Talib. So his first summary is that of Muqaddimah Ibn Salah. Then he did a summary, of his own summary that he made of Ibn Salah. So the second summary that he did is called At-Taqrib wa Taysir. At-Taqrib wa Taysir. And both are in print. So as for the second, and you find that Irshad have been explained, and also Taqrib wa Taysir also been explained. So the famous explanation of Taqrib wa Taysir, it is the work, it was explained again later, it was explained by As-Suyuti in the famous work that is called Tadrib al-Rawi fi Shar Taqrib al-Nawawi. So Tadrib al-Rawi fi Shar Taqrib Nawawi. That's the work of As-Suyuti, who of the ulama of the 9th century. So that 911. So As-Suyuti rahimullah, that he explained the second summary of An-Nawawi, that is called Taqrib. And that one, then that became the work of Suyuti. Then it becomes like a work that they mention is now, that is a book for Tadris. It's a book that is used by university to in studying of Ilm Mustalah. So As-Suyuti rahimahullah kind of somewhat he goes into volumes depending on the print, but he mentioned different other aqwal. But also with As-Suyuti rahimahullah, sometimes he's good at bringing all the aqwal, but he doesn't make tarjih. Doesn't per se clarify which code is the more correct view, but he is known that he is good at how to bring things together, to jam and bring information together. The second of those we mentioned that there are some other of those important work that relates to those who have condensed the book of Ibn Salah. Another book that said Ibn Daqiq al-Eid. So Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, who died 702 al-Hijri, and he has a book that is called Al-Iqtirah fi Bayan al-Istilah. Al-Iqtirah fi Bayan al-Istilah. And that's the work of Ibn Daqiq al-Eid. The work of Ibn Daqiq, that also is in print, and also a useful summary. Also, with this one, I've mentioned that another scholar was Al-Dhahabi. So Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, that he came after his teacher Ibn Daqiq al-Eid. So Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, that he died 748. Then he came and he did a book in Mustalah that is called Al-Muqidha. Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, he wrote also a book in Mustalah. Also Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah have many works in Ilm al-Hadith, that he has a book that is called Al-Muqidha. This book Al-Muqidha, some important also work in Ilm al-Hadith, that a discussion between the ulama is Muqidha by Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah. Is it a summary of the work of Ibn Daqiq al-Eid al-Iqtirah, or is it a summary of the work of Ibn Salah, Muqaddimah Ibn Salah? So you have a khilaf between the discussion between the ulama as to Al-Muqidha, is a summary of his Ibn Daqiq al-work, which is Iqtirah, which is a summary of the work of Ibn Salah, or Muqidha is directly a summary of the work of Ibn Salah, Al-Muqaddimah Ibn Salah. You have a khilaf between the ulama on that matter, or Mustaqlim Ibn al-Hadith. Then after you have others who have also made summary. You have Ibn Kathir, and that's what the more famous of the summary of the work of Ibn Salah. So you have Ikhtisar Ulum al-Hadith by Ibn Kathir, and you find one of contemporaries with Ahmed Shakir rahimahullah, one of the ulama of Misr, that also have explained it, that work. But of the famous work Al-Ikhtisar Ulum al-Hadith by Ibn Kathir rahimahullah. Then also you have Ibn Malakkin. We have Ibn Malakkin, who died 804 al-Hijri, died 804 Hijri. That you have two works regarding in Mustalah that are known. You have, which is the first one, Al-Muqna' which is a summary of the work of Ibn Salah, and then he did a second summary of Al-Muqna, which is called Tazkira fi Ulum al-Hadith. So Ibn Malakin rahimahullah, he did a summary of Ibn Salah work that is called direct summary, that is called Al-Muqna. Then he did a summary of his summary that is called Tadkira fi Ulum al-Hadith. And you have others. You have Ibn Jama' also have a summary, and that also is said to be a good summary of Ibn Jama' as a work, as something as a teaching material, something to use as a teaching material. Then you have other works. So you have Ibn Hajar also have done some work on the book of Ibn Salah, Zarkashi, and also of recent that Ibn Jama' that we just mentioned, Ibn Jama', that recent that of a book that's just about to be printed and out, that he has an explanation of the work of Ibn Salah. So Ibn Jama' also have an explanation of the work of Ibn Salah, and that is to be printed. That is about to be printed and available in the market. And others who have done work. So you have Al-Afil al-Hiraqi and the likes, and many others who have different levels of work around the book of Ibn Salah. Then also we go to the stage that comes after Ibn Salah, which is the stage of Ibn Hajar, which is the stage of the next stage regarding concern of Ibn Hajar rahimahullah. The next stage will be the stage of Ibn Hajar. So Ibn Hajar and what comes after, and that will be regarding concerning Marhala al-Tahrir wa Diqqa fi al-Tartib, so that you become more specific regarding the layout of the book, and also regarding concern that, coming to where there's maybe differences, coming to what I meant, and that's a tahrir, trying to be very meticulous regarding certain definition and certain understanding regarding ilm mustalah. So look to see what has been mentioned before and come to a final conclusion. That's the stage of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and what comes after. So regarding concern is that the stage of Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, where Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, that he wrote several books in Mustalah. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, I've contributed regarding that. He has his own works, which is Nukhbatul Fikr. Then he went on to explain Nukhbatul Fikr to Nuzhat al-Nadar. So Nukhbatul Fikr by Ibn Hajar. Then Ibn Hajar rahimahullah went on to explain his work of Nukhba in a work called Nuzha al-Nadar. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, that have work, and also Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, we mentioned before, have a book, Nuqat ala Ibn Salah, as a book, Nuqat ala Ibn Salah. So you have those works that are available. Then many works that came after, so you find many who have explained work that centered around concerning the work of Ibn Hajar, which is An-Nukhba or Nuzha. Many who have explained both, or both together. So you have many who have explained, and also even some, which would be the next matter regarding some who have condensed Nukhbatul Fikr. So the work of Ibn Hajar, Nukhbatul Fikr, that those who came and condensed it, and of those you have several of those as who condensed Nukhbatul Fikr. I mentioned Al-Muqtasar fi Ulum al-Hadith by Ibn Wazir. So Ibn Wazir, Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Wazir, that have they said it's a muqtasar of discussion, a muqtasar of Nukhbat al-Fikr, with some addition. So take into account, or bear in mind, when we said that is a muqtasar, sometimes muqtasar ulama, it's still an addition. They may condense a book, but also they may add some stuff to it. So those are some of the works regarding concerning, and many works regarding Ilm al-Hadith. There are many works regarding Ilm al-Hadith. These are just some of those works regarding Ilm al-Hadith. As for the one that we're looking at to study, so our study material, inshallah ta'ala, that we're hoping to study one of the muqtasarat of Nukhbat al-Fikr. We're looking to study one of the muqtasarat of Nukhbat al-Fikr. So you have several of those ones that we're looking at, and is the one which is called Talkhis Nukhbat al-Fikr. Talkhis Nukhbat al-Fikr. Nam, and that is written by one contemporary, is Omar Muqbil. Omar Muqbil, وفقه Allah, that one of those who specialize in ilm al-hadith and a professor in this field, that he has done a muqtasar, a summary of the book of Nukhbatul Fikr. So it serves as something for a beginner. So also with Nukhbatul Fikr, that the ulama have clarified that you find two things regarding Nukhbatul Fikr. That those who mention that it's a book to start with for beginners, and those who mention, and that's generally mentioned across the board by many. But as for those who specialize in ilm al-hadith, that they will say to you that is not a book for beginners, unless it's taught by someone who specializes in ilm al-hadith and very well grounded in ilm al-hadith. So Nukhbat al-Fikr is not a book for beginners. Who's a person who's, I would say, green, have no background study in ilm al-hadith, that he would not start. It wouldn't be advisable for him to start with Nukhbat al-Fikr. Nukhbat al-Fikr concerning Abdul books, that is book of concerns, the book of Muharrar, is a person who's a person who's making tarjiyah, making final decision on matters. Making final decisions on matters. That sometimes you have a difference between the ulama that preceded him, but he's coming to a conclusion also. He may have some views that may be different from what is already established. So they mentioned that the book Nukhbat al-Fikr or Nuzhat al-Nazar is not something for a beginner to start with. So with this, the book that we mentioned, that the book that most likely that we may be using, Talkhis Nukhbat al-Fikr by Umar Muqbil Wafaqah Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And because it's a muqtasar, we said now with Nukhbat al-Fikr, with Nusa, another, you have many explanation. So the person, you have many explanation to use it as guide in explaining this particular talkhis or any of those talkhis. Then the next matter to discuss will be matter relating to Alqab al-Muhaddis al-Hadith. What are some of the terms or names that are given to people studying this field? Of the terms that are given, so to understand concerning Alqab al-Ilmiyya, at times is so a person being referred to as a muhaddith, a person being referred to as a faqih, or a person being referred to as a usuli. That this sometimes is a form of tazkiyah from one aspect and not tazkiyah from another aspect. So tazkiyah, by way of as regard that a person that is a specialist in this field. So a tazkiyah, so it's concerning alqab, ilmiyya, al-takassus, is indicating that person is a specialist in a particular field. So usuli, he specialized in the field of usul. Faqih, that he specialized in fiqh. Muhaddith, that he specialized in hadith. That is a mufassir, he specialized in tafsir. So it showed the person have some level of specialization in a particular field. But as for it's not a complete tazkiyah, because the person may be a muhaddith, but he has some deficiency regarding his of tasawwuf. Also, he maybe have some aqa'id matter that is off. So it doesn't mean that that person, consider a person muhaddith or a faqih. It means that it's a complete tazkiyah of a person. And that's well known and established between Ahl al-Ilm. That a person being referred to as a muhaddith or a faqih or usuli, it does not mean that a person giving a complete recommendation to that person. But a person does indicating, highlighting that this person is a specialist in a particular field of Islamic science. So of the Alqab al-Hadith, the ulama of hadith, that you might find a person that as a beginner is called Talib al-Hadith. So a person, a beginner, is referred to like a Talib al-Hadith. The person has some inclination to want to study ilm al-Hadith. And some might call him Hadithi, where the person start to gather books of Hadith and start to put more emphasis regarding the science of Hadith. So putting more emphasis regarding study of Hadith and the books of Hadith and Mustalah. So that's a Talib al-Hadith or Hadithi. Then a person may be said to be Musnid. So a person referred to in Hadith as Musnid, where the person was a Musnid, where the person that he have been or he have attended sessions of Sama, where Hadith is being read, the books of Hadith being read, and the person have an isnad for that book. So a book has been read to him, or he read a book to a sheikh, and the sheikh will give an isnad for that book, a particular book, so, that book. So it's said to be a musnad where he has, for some narration of his hadith, he has for them isnad. And it could be several books. Also, of those names is al-muhaddith. So muhaddith, they mention when you start with ilm al-hadith, riwayatan wa diraya, that a person said to be a muhaddith of latter time is a person who said to be one who, that he busy himself with studying of hadith. Riwayatan wa diraya, regarding concerning that looking the hadith, authenticating hadith, checking of the verification of the hadith, then he said to be a muhaddith. I consider a person that is an accomplished person in the field of hadith. We are muhaddith in our time. That means a person that he has the ability that he can maybe pass judgment on hadith, that a hadith is authentic or not, and going through the procedure. So he has the ability that is able and the tools that is able to can research on a hadith and come to a conclusion that a hadith is authentic or not. And he's recognized by his peers in that field. He's recognized by his peers of the ulama of his field that is a specialist in that field. So it's called a muhaddith. So that time a person may be explained kutubul sitta, but he's not a muhaddith. So a person, he may be explained and have an explanation of kutubul sitta, but he's still not considered to be a muhaddith. And you'll find that those books that the person more centered on the text, not the matan. So the person more centered regarding concerning explaining the wording of the hadith, not per se matters that relates to the isnad. Not much discussion is around that area. So we have those cases and books of that nature. Then also a person may say to be at times they mention a title that Al-Hakim, Al-Hafiz, Amir al-Mu'mineen. You have these other greater title of the ulama of hadith, that Amir al-Mu'mineen is a title given to the greatest of the scholars of ilm of hadith. So those are titles given to people who study ilm al-hadith. Then a final thing that to be mentioned, as we said, that to discuss concerning some of the names of the ulama of hadith, some of the ulama of this field, who are said to be specialists of this field. So when you hear these names, then they're usually and many times related to things of ilm al-hadith, regarding speaking about critiquing of narrators or grading of hadith and the likes. Of those names, of some of the great scholars of ilm al-hadith are those who are known in this field, that from the ulama of the tabi'een, we have Imam al-Zuhri, Malik ibn Anas, Shu'ba ibn Hajjaj, Al-Awza'i, Al-Amash, Abdullah ibn Mubarak. So these are the early ones from the tabi'een. Again, al-Zuhri, Malik ibn Anas, Imam Malik, Shu'ba ibn Hajjaj, Awza'i, Amash, Abdul Rahman ibn al-Mubarak. So those are some of them. Also those who follow after those ones of the ulama who came of known for regarding Jar wa Ta'dil in the early times, that I mentioned of the Salaf. Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qahtan, Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Ali ibn Madini, Yahya ibn Ma'in, Ishaq ibn Rahuya. So those are of the ulama also that came up the tabi'een, that are known for their critiquing of hadith by way of the narrators and also hadith. That again, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qahtan, Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, al-Shafi'i, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Ali ibn Madini, Yahya ibn Ma'in, Ishaq ibn Rahuya. So Rahuya is the way that is pronounced by the ulama of hadith. Rahawi is pronounced by the ulama of Lughah. Rahuya, that's how it's pronounced by the ulama of hadith. Rahawi by the ulama of al-Lughah. Then of those who came after, we have the likes of Imam al-Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawud, Nasa'i, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Ad-Darimi, Abu Hatim al-Razi, Abu Zur'a al-Razi, Ibn Khuzaymah, Ibn Hibban, Uqayli, Ibn Adi. Then after, that's all of the ulama that are known for this field. Also we have the likes that came after them that are known as Abu al-Hasan ad-Daraqutni, we have the likes of al-Bayhaqi, we have Khatib al-Baghdadi. After the ulama, also Abu Ya'la al-Khalili. So you have those the ulama of hadith up until the 4th, 5th century of Islam. Then also we have of those who came after, that we have al-Mizzi, Hafiz al-Mizzi. So you find the ulama that they are more known, the ulama of hadith that their only focus is the hadith. So Mizzi, they say, is one of those that is pure focus was on hadith. So al-Mizzi rahimahullah tabaraka ta'ala also, that of the ulama who of ilm al-hadith that also stands out with the ulama of hadith. Also we have Ibn Abd al-Hadi al-Hanbali, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim. Also we have al-Dhahabi, Ibn Kathir, al-Iraqi, father and son, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Then we have al-Sakhawi, we have Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, also al-Haythami or Haythami, then also as-Suyuti, Sakhawi, and the likes. Then of contemporary times, then we have more contemporary times, we have the likes of Mubarak Furi, as-Sindi, we have Ahmed Shakir, we have Jamal al-Din al-Qasimi, we have Abdurrahman al-Muallimi. We also have the likes of Sheikh Albani of more recent times. So of more recent times, we have Sheikh Albani, Sheikh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi, also Abdurrahman al-Muallimi. Then also we have that specialize in hadith. We have Shuaib Arnaout, Abdul Qadir Arnaout. So those are the people that are known regarding, we mentioned name of people of more contemporaries or are involved regarding critiquing of hadith. So you have those who may have this skill, but as for the ones who are known for checking of books of hadith and passing grading on hadith, then these are the names regarding Sheikh Albani of contemporary, Sheikh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi, that Sheikh Ahmed Shakir, Shuaib Arnaout, Abdul Qadir Arnaout, that these are those ones that they stand up because of them studying books of hadith and also passing their own their judgment on hadith, their own judgment on hadith. Then we have also others that I will mention, that those who may be that they are known for tasawwuf and the likes. So you have of those ones that a name which is the Ghumari. So the Ghumari family, Ahmed Ghumari, that they are known to be people of hadith as a family, but they are known of those who are known to have tasawwuf on the next level. And others that named that. So you have others that have shared in this field, some more so on the writing concerning books of Mustalah, but instead of those one regarding checking of hadith and passing general hadith, the ones that we have mentioned, Sheikh Albani, Sheikh Muqbil, and the likes, Shuaib Arnaout and Abdul Qadir Arnaout. So those are matters, and then after that, those Mashaykh have passed away. Then you have of those who have come after of them that وصلنا مشتغلين بعلم الحديث, مشتغلين بعلم الحديث, that those who are said to be people of some efforts in ilm al-hadith, and they on different levels. They're on different levels. So that's concerning the matter regarding this. So this inshallah ta'ala will come to a conclusion regarding this introduction, and hopefully inshallah ta'ala next session that we can go into start discussing our book, which is Talkhis Nukhbatul Fikr, or one of Talkhis Nukhbatul Fikr by Umar, Sheikh Ustad Umar Muqbil Wafaqahullah Tabaraka Ta'ala. So that inshallah ta'ala will end, and as we said, the next session we hope to start discussing matters pertaining to Mustalah al-Hadith, specific matters relating to Mustalah al-Hadith. Wa billahi ta'ala tawfiq wa hadhihi as-sabil wal akhirah wa alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.